Hello to you all. Now we are going to talk about the Great Exit Plan. 2008 is the year of the beginning of the crisis. The Greek crisis is neither more nor less than a financial crisis. The Greek public debt crisis. The Greek debt crisis weighs on its economy in two ways. First, the fears that it engenders among investors on its ability to repay its public debt. Second, the weight of the reimbursement of the interest that poses a risk of default and therefore of contagion in the entire Eurozone. What are the causes? There are some country-specific factors such as the high indebtedness, approximately 177% of the GDP in 2014. The budget deficit, more than 15% of the GDP, far from the Maastricht convergence criteria, which is less than or equal to 3%. Absence of transparency when the country was entered to Eurozone, especially the collection of balance sheet funds through derivatives, which can be considered as a worsening factor of the crisis. There is some external factor, especially speculation. Here as elsewhere, we should emphasize the negative role played by some investment banks, such as Goldman Sachs, with the development of collateral debt securities that are regarded as a speculative instrument. How the crisis does manifest. We have first rescue of Greece to stop or slow down the effects of the crisis in 2010 with a loan of 260 billion euros conditioned to a structural adjustment by the government. The second rescue in 2011, Greece solicited help from Europe again. French was willing to help while Germans were asking for the banking system, which had lent so much money to Greece to put the hands in the pocket in order to contribute financially to the resolution of the crisis. At the same time, the Greek government undergoes the pressure of the street. The United Nations wants, in a report of June 25th, that the policies of radical reduction of public deficits threaten the employment, social expenditures, and make any economic growth very uncertain. The solution advocated for Greece would thus be counterproductive. By the end of 2014, the country releases a primary budget surplus. In the meantime, the arrival of Syriza to the government elected on a program very hostile to the reforms suggested by the European institutions, provided that the plan of 2012 expires, has produced many negotiations, followed by a period of tensions between Greece and the other countries of the zone, to such a point that the exit of Greece from the Eurozone, called in the media Brexit for Greece exit, was considered and is even considered nowadays by some politicians, economists, and commentators. The referendum of July 2015 to accept or reject the plan proposed by the creditors concludes with a no. Nevertheless, a similar plan is accepted in the days that follow after third negotiations and then approved by the Greek parliament. Now, what have we learned from the Greece crisis? We should not, first, we should not overestimate the function of the rating agencies. Sometimes they are acting too late, sometimes they are involved in the crisis. Second, we must escape from the judgment of the financial markets. Sometimes it is exaggerating the extent of the current situation due to the behavior of actors. Third, rehabilitate the financial capitalism as far as business ethics and human-friendly aspects are concerned. Fourth, reassess permanently the functioning of the state to regenerate efficiencies. Fifth, we must seek permanently the general interest in the management of public affairs. And fifth, the last and not the least, focus on the internal debt for an endogenous growth. How can we conclude? Greece should stay in the Eurozone. It is not just the fact of a complacent optimism. To make it possible, and as suggested by Dominique Strauss-Kahn, there are some conditions to be progressively implemented, especially Europe and the IMF stop all transfers to Greece. Second, please, Greece must keep on implementing tax and social reforms without additional cash injection because of the default. Yes, nobody is going to risk lending him money. And third, we must bring assistance to Greece at all possible ways with technical support. The OECD, the EBRD, and the European Commissions are some of the institutions involved in that process. If Greece overcomes, if it exudes a certain budgetary surplus, it thus becomes able to join the club, except that it remains a debt impossible to repay. At that time, it will have to resume negotiations to do exactly what the IMF has done with very in-depth developing countries. That means partial remission of debt, progressive erasure of debt, conditioned to the fulfillment of the reforms requested by the creditors. That's what I could say for the Greek exit plan. Thanks to you. Bye-bye.